The day the Galactic Coalition declared war on Earth was supposed to be a moment that changed everything. That was how the Coalition imagined it. Many alien leaders believed humans would panic, crumble, or at least show some hint of fear. They expected Earth's diplomats to shout, argue, or fall silent in shock. They imagined confusion spreading across human cities, alarms ringing, broadcasts turning chaotic, and people losing control. But none of that happened. Instead, something strange occurred, strange enough that many who witnessed it remembered the moment for years afterward. When the transmission came through to the negotiation hall, every representative from Earth simply watched in a calm way that felt almost unsettling. The alien envoys expected the humans to argue back. They expected anger. They expected some kind of emotional explosion. But the humans only exchanged small, quiet looks with one another. It was the type of look soldiers might share before a battle they had trained years for, or the look engineers might give when a machine finally starts working exactly as they predicted. It was a look of people who were not surprised at all. The main speaker of the coalition delivered the declaration with dramatic flair. His voice echoed through the chamber, translated into dozens of languages at once. He spoke of violations, distrust, and fears. He spoke of how humanity had grown too fast, reached too far, and refused to explain the secrets behind their rapid progress. He claimed the galaxy had no choice but to act before Earth became a threat too large to control. In the middle of this grand speech, something else caught everyone's attention. One of the human representatives, an older man with tired eyes, leaned back in his chair and let out the smallest breath. Not shock, not fear, something closer to relief. A few of the other humans glanced at him, then gave faint nods. The aliens watching felt a chill. Why relief? Why nods? Why calm? It was the first sign that things were not going to go the way the coalition expected. The declaration ended with a final sentence that echoed through the chamber. The speaker claimed the coalition would no longer tolerate what they called Earth's unpredictable rise. With that, the connection cut. The hall went silent. For almost 10 seconds, nobody moved. Alien officials stared at the humans, waiting for a typical reaction. Waiting for disbelief. Waiting for anger. Waiting for something that showed humanity was unprepared. But the humans simply started packing their documents, like the meeting had ended normally. One of them even adjusted his coat and whispered something to a colleague that made her exhale in a slow, steady way, as if they had been waiting for this exact moment. One alien ambassador finally broke the silence. He stepped forward, his voice trembling slightly as he asked the humans if they needed time to process the situation. The older human responded in a soft, almost gentle tone, saying there was nothing to process. Earth had heard the declaration. They understood the decision. They would respond in due time. It was not what the aliens expected. Not even close. When the humans left the hall, walking in a calm and coordinated line, a quiet sense of unease spread through the alien envoys. There was no panic in the human steps. No confusion. It was as if the declaration of war had already been written in their minds, long before the words were spoken. As the humans disappeared down the hallway, whispers began spreading among the alien representatives. Some said Earth must be hiding something. Others insisted that humanity was bluffing, pretending to be calm while secretly being terrified. A few wondered if Earth simply did not understand the danger of the coalition's power, but most of them felt something they could not explain. A sense that the humans' reaction was not normal, not expected, and not safe. Meanwhile, on Earth, the reaction was equally strange. Normally, when a planet receives a declaration of war from a massive interstellar coalition, it should cause chaos. But when the news spread across Earth's networks, people did not scream or panic. Sure, There was concern, surprise, and anger, but none of the mass fear the coalition predicted. Instead, something else happened. Governments activated sealed emergency protocols that had been prepared years earlier. Military forces began moving in coordinated patterns that looked like rehearsed routines rather than sudden reactions. Large ships that had been docked quietly in the outer colonies lit up their drive cores. Hidden defense satellites powered on. Old evacuation drills resurfaced in communities across Earth, but they were followed calmly. Almost like everyone had practiced them many times before, civilians didn't collapse into fear. They looked confused for a moment, then acted with surprising discipline. Shops closed in an orderly way. Public services sent alerts in calm voices, guiding people to shelters or safe zones, not because danger was immediate, but because Earth had a protocol for this exact situation. It was almost like the entire planet had been expecting this moment. Group of young workers in a mining colony on Ganymede watched the official broadcast. One of them muttered, "So it finally happened." Another nodded, saying something about how their supervisors had hinted years ago that this outcome wasn't impossible. Even though they were worried, they didn't lose control. They locked down their station and followed the procedures they had been trained to follow. In a major city on Earth, a teacher paused her class to show the announcement. The students reacted with a mixture of curiosity and seriousness. The teacher gently guided them through what they needed to do next, following instructions that had been quietly included in school systems long ago. Across the world, there were similar scenes. People were anxious, but they weren't unprepared, and in many places, there was an odd feeling in the air. It felt like Earth had been waiting. Even the military, which should have been scrambling in confusion, was moving like a well-oiled machine. Officers received coded messages they had practiced decoding countless times. Pilots moved to their stations without hesitation. Ships that had been kept under the radar suddenly came to life, revealing capabilities that the coalition had always assumed Earth didn't have yet. In hidden bases beneath oceans and mountains, enormous structures powered up for the first time in years. And as all this happened, people started asking questions. How long had the governments known this was coming? How much preparation had been hidden from the public? Why had Earth's leaders stayed silent, even when tensions with the coalition grew day by day? Some citizens were upset that so much had been kept secret. Others simply felt reassured, knowing Earth had not been blind to the danger. But the biggest question came from observers outside Earth, those who lived in alien worlds and watched closely. Why had Earth reacted with a calmness that bordered on confidence? Back on the Galactic Council's central world, many alien leaders reviewed the recording of the humans' reaction again and again. They watched the small exchanges of glances. They watched the way the humans quietly packed their items. They watched the complete lack of shock in their faces. Each time they reviewed the footage, the same question rose in their minds. Why did humanity look like it had been expecting war, and possibly even prepared for it? That question began turning into fear, and the fear began spreading. The coalition thought they had made the first move, but watching humanity's reaction, many were starting to think maybe Earth was already 10 moves ahead. When the initial shock of the coalition's declaration settled, a strange calm spread across Earth. People went about their routines. But there was a different kind of energy now, one that hummed beneath the surface. It wasn't panic. It wasn't fear. It was preparation, focus, and quiet determination. The kind that comes from knowing danger is coming, but also knowing you can face it. Governments and military leaders began moving in ways the outside galaxy would never have expected. Hidden fleets that had been idle for years were now activating, slipping out of secret hangars and docks. Ships that had once been classified as old and obsolete suddenly revealed hidden systems, lights flashing as power surged through circuits the public never knew existed. Each vessel moved with purpose, guided by crews who had been trained for scenarios that no one outside the top ranks had ever imagined. In cities, ordinary people noticed the changes, but didn't panic. Public transportation ran with minor delays, not because the systems were failing, but because they were adapting to emergency protocols. Schools and workplaces quietly shifted schedules, not out of fear, but as a measure of careful planning. Broadcasts from government officials were calm, measured, and clear, instructing citizens on what to do, where to go, and how to protect themselves, while never spreading alarm. Across the colonies on Mars, Titan, and the asteroid belts, a similar scene unfolded. Mining stations, research outposts, and small settlements shifted into a rhythm that had been drilled for years. Young engineers ran diagnostic checks on machines that had been dormant. Security teams patrolled quietly, but with alertness that spoke of hidden knowledge. Even in these remote locations, people could feel the pulse of preparation, like a silent heartbeat that connected everyone. It was in these moments that the coalition realized it might have underestimated humans. Their assumption had been that a declaration of war would cause chaos, confusion, maybe even rebellion within the ranks of Earth's governments. Instead, what they saw was an entire planet moving as one organism, calm and precise. Behind closed doors, the human military command centers were alive with activity. Officers consulted maps, holographic projections, and intelligence reports that had been secretly collected for years. Strategies were reviewed, contingencies discussed, and new calculations made on the fly. Every choice was deliberate, every movement purposeful. It was as though the entire planet had been waiting for this moment for decades. While the fleets were activating and defenses powering up, scientists and engineers were working on another level. Laboratories across Earth and the colonies were analyzing data streams from the coalition, identifying weak points in technology and strategy. Satellites once used only for research began monitoring the coalition's communications and movements. Humans were not just reacting, they were predicting, anticipating the next moves, and preparing responses even before attacks could occur. People on the streets, though not directly involved in military operations, felt the change in the air. There was no fear in their eyes, only a steady sense of awareness. Citizens helped each other, guided those who needed assistance, and followed instructions calmly. Shops began distributing emergency supplies efficiently. Hospitals readied their emergency protocols. And in quiet homes, families discussed safety plans in a way that seemed organized yet natural, like routines that had always been a part of life, but never spoken of aloud. Even in entertainment and media, the tone shifted. News channels reported the declaration of war not as a catastrophe, but as a challenge humanity was ready to face. Commentators and analysts talked about preparedness, resilience, and ingenuity rather than doom. Social networks buzzed with discussions of strategy, history, and human achievement, turning fear into focus. Meanwhile, the coalition's spies and observers tried to understand what was happening. They had expected panic, confusion, and desperation. Instead, they witnessed calm that unsettled them. They reported back to their leaders, using words like impossible, unrealistic, and unnatural to describe humanity's reaction. Within the council's halls, fear began to creep into discussions. If humans were this prepared, what else were they hiding? What technologies, plans, or alliances were the galaxy unaware of? This calm, however, was not passive. It was the preparation of a species that had faced countless challenges in its history and had survived every time. Humans had endured natural disasters, wars, famine, and countless crises on their own planet. Each generation had learned from the previous one. Each challenge had taught a lesson. This was the core of their response now. They did not fear what was coming because they had overcome so much before. On the ground, soldiers trained in combat and strategy moved silently through cities and colonies. They conducted drills, tested communication systems, and prepared defensive positions, all without alarming the public. They moved like shadows, coordinated and precise. For the first time in centuries, many civilians saw parts of the military that had been hidden from view. But even then, they did not panic. They simply followed instructions, confident that their world had a plan. The calmness extended to intelligence networks as well. Human analysts monitored coalition signals, tracking every movement, predicting decisions, and calculating probabilities. They discovered patterns that suggested the coalition was acting out of overconfidence. Humans had predicted this arrogance and had prepared countermeasures in secret. Every intercepted message, every calculated risk, was already accounted for. Even the leaders of Earth seemed unusually relaxed. They addressed the public with steady voices, reassuring people that the situation was serious but manageable. They did not make promises they could not keep, nor did they incite panic. Their words carried the quiet confidence of people who had already walked the path of preparation, who knew the obstacles and had found ways to overcome them. In the colonies, similar scenes unfolded. Young technicians monitored power grids, engineers maintained spacecraft, and security personnel practiced drills. Everyone had a role, and everyone understood the importance of their contribution. This was not a reaction to fear. It was a response to certainty. Humanity knew that a declaration of war was only the beginning. Even families and communities contributed to this readiness. People shared resources, organized local defense teams, and volunteered for tasks they had never thought they would perform. Children and elders alike participated in small ways, from carrying supplies to helping with communications. It was not forced. It was natural. They had always adapted to challenges, and now they were doing it on a planetary scale. Amid all this, the coalition grew increasingly anxious. Their assumption that humanity would be thrown into chaos was clearly wrong. Each report they received spoke of efficiency, coordination, and preparation. Ships that had been considered slow were moving faster than expected. Satellites that had been deemed outdated were transmitting critical intelligence. Humans were not reacting. They were advancing, anticipating, and coordinating on levels the coalition had not imagined out. As the day drew on, Earth itself seemed to hum with energy. Cities, colonies, and hidden bases worked like parts of a single organism. Humans coordinated across continents and planets, moving resources, people, and information seamlessly. Every action, no matter how small, was part of a larger plan. And through it all, people maintained their calm, their focus, and their quiet determination. By nightfall, the coalition began to see a different picture of Earth than they had expected. A planet that had seemed vulnerable and unpredictable was anything but. It was prepared, organized, and ready to respond in ways that no one in the galaxy had anticipated. Reports from reconnaissance teams were filled with astonishment. Humans were not panicking. They were ready. Every system was active, every strategy rehearsed, every person playing a role in the defense of their world. And for the humans themselves, this was just another day. They had been waiting, preparing, and training for years. The declaration of war had not caught them by surprise. It had not shaken their resolve. Instead, it had activated a process that had been quietly unfolding for decades. They were ready, not because they wanted war, but because they had always prepared for the worst while hoping for the best. Coalition may have thought they were starting a conflict that would overwhelm Earth. In truth, they had only revealed the planet's strength, coordination, and determination. The calm that the humans showed was not ignorance or naivety. It was a reflection of everything they had learned, built, and prepared over centuries. And as the night settled across cities and colonies, the pulse of readiness continued, quiet but unstoppable. It was becoming clear. Humanity's response was more than calm. It was a demonstration of everything that made them unpredictable, resilient, and perhaps most importantly, unstoppable. The galaxy was about to learn a lesson it would never forget. The day the Coalition launched its first strike, they expected to catch Earth off guard. They had planned a massive, coordinated attack, targeting orbital defenses, communication hubs, and key military installations. They imagined chaos, confusion, and panic as Earth scrambled to respond. What they did not expect was the calm efficiency of humanity. As the first warning signals lit up screens in control rooms across Earth, officers and engineers barely flinched. Alarms blared, but they were met with precise, practiced responses. The orbital defense systems, long rumored to be outdated, powered up instantly. Satellite grids activated, shielding key areas and redirecting threats. Missiles launched in pre-programmed intercept courses. Meeting the incoming attack with accuracy the Coalition had not anticipated. On the bridge of a defense station orbiting one of Earth's moons, a young officer monitored the incoming strike. He had trained for simulations like this countless times, and now the real situation unfolded exactly as they had rehearsed. He gave calm instructions, moving hands across holographic controls, and each command was executed without error. Crew members worked seamlessly, like parts of a well-oiled machine. There was no fear, only focus. Across Earth, military units moved with the same precision. Fighter squadrons launched, guided by pilots who had trained for this scenario for years. Ground units deployed to strategic positions, securing communication nodes and power centers. Civilian authorities coordinated evacuations and safety measures in ways that minimized disruption. Streets were controlled, hospitals prepared, and supply chains maintained. People carried on with a sense of purpose, following instructions, supporting each other, and contributing to the defense of their planet in a research lab. Scientists monitored the incoming attack, analyzing each projectile, each maneuver. They had predicted possible attack routes and had devised countermeasures that were now coming into play. Some defense systems were even experimental, hidden for years, waiting for a moment exactly like this. As they adjusted parameters and recalculated trajectories, they watched the incoming threats neutralized one by one. Meanwhile, the Coalition fleets were shocked. Their strike, planned to overwhelm, was met not with panic, but with an immediate and effective counter. Ships they believed were obsolete were intercepting missiles, rerouting energy, and launching automated defenses. Satellites they had assumed were inactive were intercepting communications and disrupting their targeting systems. Every move they had predicted to cause damage was being neutralized in the cities below. People watched the skies with quiet determination. The usual panic that might have accompanied such an attack was replaced with calm observation and adherence to emergency protocols. Families gathered in prepared shelters. Workplaces coordinated evacuation or safety measures, and communities supported each other. Even children, who might have been frightened or guided with care, taught how to stay safe, and reassured by adults who themselves were calm and focused. The Coalition could not understand it. Every calculation they had made, every assumption about human panic, had failed. Humans were not just defending, they were responding with strategy, precision, and coordination. Reports of damage were minimal compared to what the Coalition had anticipated. Key systems remained operational. Communications were maintained. And most importantly, the humans themselves were calm, ready, and organized. Across Earth's colonies, the story was the same. On Mars, orbital stations launched defensive drones. On Titan, resource hubs prepared countermeasures to protect essential supplies. Mining stations in the asteroid belt reinforced shielding and rerouted energy. Even remote settlements that were far from the action had prepared emergency protocols, ready to protect both people and equipment. The planet and its colonies acted as one. Synchronized and efficient. In military command centers, leaders analyzed the incoming attack in real time. They communicated with every branch, every unit, and every station, coordinating countermeasures instantly. Holographic maps displayed the positions of enemy ships, missiles, and drones, while predictive algorithms suggested optimal responses. Human officers, trained to think creatively under pressure, made split-second decisions that neutralized threats before they could cause significant damage. While humans were responding, the coalition began to doubt itself. Their leaders watched as their best-laid plans were dismantled by the calm efficiency of a species they had underestimated. They had assumed fear would slow Earth's response, that panic would cause mistakes, that chaos would create opportunity. Instead, they found the world operating like a single, precise entity. Every move Earth made was calculated, every countermeasure effective. On the ground, engineers worked tirelessly to repair minor damages and maintain critical systems. Satellites and defense arrays were constantly monitored, recalibrated, and redeployed as needed. Communication networks remained secure, allowing orders to flow without interruption. Even civilians contributed by following instructions, assisting neighbors, and maintaining social order. It was a collective effort, one that the coalition had not anticipated. The human response went beyond simple defense. Counteroffensive measures were initiated almost immediately. Missiles were intercepted, yes, but at the same time, human drones and spacecraft began monitoring enemy movements, gathering intelligence for future maneuvers. Sensors analyzed ship signatures, weapon systems, and flight patterns, feeding data back into Earth's command centers. The humans were learning, adapting, and preparing to respond to the next strike, even before it occurred. In hidden research facilities, teams of scientists worked around the clock. They had long predicted the possibility of a direct attack and had developed experimental technologies to counter it. Some of these systems had been kept secret from the public, only to be revealed now when they were most effective. Directed energy shields, automated drones, and advanced guidance systems all came into play, turning what might have been chaos into controlled, effective responses. Even the civilian population played a role in the response. Volunteers assisted with logistics, medical support, and communication efforts. Local communities organized efficiently, helping distribute supplies and provide guidance to those in need. The cooperation between military, scientists, engineers, and civilians created a coordinated defense that extended across the planet and into space that the coalition's leaders began to realize, something that chilled them. Earth was not merely reacting. Humanity had anticipated this moment. Every possible scenario had been considered. Every contingency had been planned for. The humans had predicted not just the attack, but the reaction of the coalition itself. It was as if Earth had been waiting, preparing silently for years, and now every piece was falling into place. The first strike ended, but the lesson was clear. Earth had survived. The attacks had caused minimal disruption, and the humans were ready for the next challenge. Reports from reconnaissance satellites indicated that the coalition's fleets were taking heavier losses than expected. Their strategies, designed to overwhelm, were failing against a planet that moved with calm, coordinated precision. In the aftermath, humans did not celebrate. They did not cheer or boast. They returned to their tasks, repairing minor damages, reinforcing defenses, and analyzing every aspect of the attack. Every officer, engineer, and civilian understood that this was only the beginning. The first strike had revealed weaknesses in the coalition's approach, and humanity was already preparing to exploit them. Across Earth, there was a sense of quiet confidence. People continued their daily lives while remaining alert and prepared. Communities worked together, supporting each other and ensuring that every aspect of society could function even under pressure. There was no chaos, no panic, only focus, preparation, and resilience. Even the youngest members of society understood something important. Schools incorporated lessons on safety, teamwork, and preparedness. Families practiced emergency drills. Children were guided in understanding their role in maintaining calm and order. The planet itself seemed united, each person contributing in small or large ways to the larger effort of defense. For the Coalition, the day of the first strike was a moment of humbling realization. Their expectations of chaos, fear, and confusion had been completely overturned. Humans had proven that they could remain calm under pressure, respond with precision, and coordinate on a planetary scale. Every move the Coalition had planned to exploit weakness had been neutralized as night fell across Earth. Military command centers remained active. Engineers continued to repair and optimize systems. Scientists analyzed data and prepared for future threats. Communities remained vigilant, maintaining order and supporting each other. Humans had survived the first strike, and in doing so, they had shown the galaxy that their calm was not ignorance, it was readiness, intelligence, and resilience. And for the humans themselves, the first strike was only the beginning. They had been prepared for this moment for years. Every drill, every calculation, every secret system had been designed for this very scenario. Their planet had not been caught off guard. Their people had not panicked. Instead, they had acted with confidence, precision, and unity. The Coalition would soon learn that this calm, coordinated response was only a glimpse of what humans were capable of. After the first strike, humanity did not waste a moment. The Coalition believed that Earth's response had been impressive but limited to defense. They assumed humans could react, but only within certain boundaries. They thought Earth would remain on the defensive for the foreseeable future. They were wrong. Behind the walls of Earth's secret command centers, humanity revealed something that no one outside the highest circles had known. Technologies, armadas, and strategies that had been kept hidden for decades suddenly came into focus. Satellites, defense grids, and ships that had appeared ordinary were revealed to be far more advanced than anyone in the galaxy had imagined. Some of these systems had been quietly tested, studied, and refined over the years, waiting for the moment they would be needed. Engineers and scientists had developed weapons and shields that could not only defend, but also anticipate enemy movements. Machines that had been labeled experimental suddenly became the core of active defense networks. Drones and automated systems moved with independent intelligence, identifying threats and neutralizing them before they could reach Earth. It was clear that humanity had anticipated the Coalition's attack years before it even happened. In laboratories hidden deep underground, teams of specialists worked tirelessly. They had reverse-engineered technologies discovered in abandoned colonies, ancient relics, and old research that had been forgotten by most. By combining this with human ingenuity, they had created systems that were unlike anything the Coalition had ever seen. Some of these systems were deliberately concealed, kept in secret bases, or disguised as ordinary machinery. Now, in the heat of the moment, they were revealed, shifting the balance of power in ways the aliens could not have imagined. The revelation was more than just technology. It was strategy. Humans had not only prepared defenses, but had built entire plans to exploit weaknesses in the Coalition's fleets. Tactical maps showed routes of attack, hidden safe zones, and fallback points across multiple planets and colonies. Coordinated strike units could move through space undetected, ready to respond to threats in seconds. Every unit, every pilot, every commander had been trained with knowledge that gave them advantages far beyond what the Coalition assumed. In the cities on Earth, civilians were unaware of the full scale of what had been revealed, but they still felt the results. Communications remained stable. Power grids functioned without interruption. Emergency services coordinated flawlessly. Even minor inconveniences, like traffic rerouting or temporary closures, were handled in ways that minimized stress and maintained calm. Humanity's preparation extended to every corner of society. Across colonies, the effect was the same. On Mars, orbital defense systems came online that had been hidden for decades. On Titan, mining hubs activated automated defenses that could detect and respond to threats within seconds. Outposts in the asteroid belt revealed concealed fleets of small but highly capable ships. Each colony, each station, each settlement had its own systems that contributed to the larger planetary defense. Humanity had not just prepared Earth, they had prepared everything connected to it. Even as the coalition watched in disbelief, humans did not boast. They did not announce their secrets with pride or arrogance. They simply used what they had prepared, moving with calm efficiency that made their actions seem almost natural. Every deployment, every defensive measure, every calculated maneuver was part of a larger plan that had been years in the making. In one command center, officers reviewed incoming intelligence. They analyzed the coalition's fleet movements, communications, and possible strategies. Every detail had been predicted and prepared for. Algorithms calculated the best possible responses, and humans made the final decisions, balancing strategy with intuition. It was a combination of technology and human judgment that the aliens could not fully understand. Engineers monitored defense grids while simultaneously preparing countermeasures. Some weapons were defensive, some offensive, and some designed to disrupt enemy communications without causing direct damage. Every action was deliberate, measured, and precise. Humans were not reacting. They were controlling the battlefield before it even existed. In secret laboratories, researchers studied enemy technology that had been captured or observed. They identified weaknesses, calculated risks, and prepared systems to exploit those weaknesses in the next phases of conflict. Every calculation, every adjustment, every test had been done quietly, without alerting the galaxy. Now, in response to the coalition's aggression, all that preparation became active. Even ordinary citizens contributed in subtle ways. Communities organized themselves to maintain infrastructure, hospitals, and communication lines. Volunteers assisted with logistics, supply distribution, and emergency support. People were calm, focused, and cooperative, trusting the systems and instructions in place. Their role was small individually, but essential collectively. The planet functioned like a single organism, each person a vital part of its survival. The coalition began to realize that this calm, prepared response was something they had completely misjudged. They had assumed humans were inexperienced and chaotic. They had assumed fear would slow decision-making. Instead, they were faced with a species that had anticipated their every move, trained for every scenario, and prepared technologies and strategies that the galaxy had never imagined. Human commanders communicated with one another across planets and stations. Holographic projections displayed enemy fleet movements, and strategies were adjusted in real time. Tactical teams on the front lines executed maneuvers with precision. Backup systems, often hidden or disguised, activated automatically, reinforcing weak points and maintaining the integrity of defense networks. Humans were not only defending, they were shaping the battlefield according to their plans. Even children, while not directly involved, participated in ways that strengthened morale. Schools continued with lessons on safety, teamwork, and cooperation. Families practiced drills, communicated plans, and supported each other. The very society of Earth seemed to be trained for resilience, unity, and calm. As humans revealed more of their capabilities, the coalition became increasingly cautious. Their attacks slowed. Their strategies became defensive. Their confidence, once absolute, began to falter. They had underestimated a species that not only survived under pressure, but thrived in it. Every calculation of the coalition was now questioned. Every move second-guessed. On Earth, leaders maintained calm authority. They spoke to the public with steady voices, reassuring them while carefully revealing necessary information. They did not incite panic. They did not exaggerate threats. They conveyed facts and instructions in a way that kept society organized and prepared. This calm, measured response only strengthened the confidence of the people and highlighted the disciplined humanity had built over centuries. In the aftermath of these revelations, humans continued to refine their strategies. Scientists analyzed data from the first strike, engineers strengthened systems, and military leaders adapted plans for future engagements. Every move was designed to maximize efficiency and minimize risk. Humanity was not waiting for the coalition. They were moving ahead, anticipating the next challenge before it even arrived. Across colonies, the same pattern emerged. Humans worked tirelessly, coordinated efficiently, and remained focused on long-term outcomes rather than immediate panic. Supplies were moved, defensive systems reinforced, and communication lines maintained. Every settlement, no matter how remote, contributed to the overall strategy, ensuring that no point of Earth or its colonies was left vulnerable. The coalition, observing all this, began to understand a hard truth. Humans were not ordinary. They were unpredictable, resourceful, and relentless. Their calm response was not a sign of weakness. It was a demonstration of planning, intelligence, and preparation. Every measure they revealed was evidence of decades of silent work, careful observation, and careful anticipation of the galaxy's reactions. As night fell across Earth and its colonies, humans continued to work. Systems hummed with energy. Ships moved silently in space. Satellites scanned and monitored enemy movements. Research labs refined technology. Communities maintained stability. And everywhere, people acted with calm confidence, as if they had been waiting for this moment their entire lives. By the end of the day, the truth was undeniable. Humanity had revealed its hidden strength, its careful planning, and its readiness for war. The coalition had misjudged an entire species. Humans were not just defending, they were preparing to take control of the situation, using strategy, intelligence, and technology that had been hidden for decades. The galaxy had assumed Earth would panic, that chaos would follow a strike, that humans were unprepared. Instead, the truth became clear. Earth had not only anticipated the attack, but it had also quietly shaped the conditions to survive and respond effectively. Every human action, every technological system, every community effort was part of a larger, invisible plan. The coalition could only watch in disbelief. What they thought would be easy victory was turning into something they had never imagined. Humanity was calm, prepared, and resilient. And now, more than ever, the galaxy began to understand that underestimating Earth was the gravest mistake it could make. After revealing hidden technologies and advanced strategies, humanity's next step was not just to defend, it was to shift the momentum. The coalition had assumed that Earth would remain on the defensive, that humans would react, wait, and perhaps struggle to survive under overwhelming pressure. What they didn't know was that humanity had not just planned for defense. They had prepared for offense, for strategy, and for taking control. Command centers across Earth and its colonies were buzzing with activity. But the energy was calm, focused, and precise. Officers coordinated fleets, scientists monitored every sensor, and engineers adjusted systems that had been long dormant. Every action was intentional, every movement measured. Humans were no longer reacting, they were directing. The first strike from the coalition had already been countered, and its failures had revealed critical intelligence. Humans had analyzed the movement of enemy fleets, identified weak points in their formation, and studied their communication patterns. That knowledge became the foundation for the next phase. Tactical teams on Earth and across colonies plotted routes for fleets and drones that could evade detection. strike critical points, and withdraw without unnecessary losses. In space, small human fleets moved silently along hidden trajectories. Ships that had appeared ordinary now displayed capabilities that stunned any observer who thought they understood Earth's limits. Cloaking systems, energy shields, and automated weapons worked in harmony, guided by human intuition and training. Pilots, engineers, and commanders coordinated seamlessly, relying on years of preparation and study. Even on Earth itself, ordinary citizens felt the change. They weren't involved in military operations directly, but they saw the effects. Communications remained stable. Power grids continued without interruption. Emergency systems functioned flawlessly. Hospitals, transportation, and public services worked in harmony. Humans everywhere were not only surviving, they were thriving under pressure, each person contributing to the greater plan. In hidden laboratories and orbital stations, researchers monitored enemy responses to humanity's movements. Each adjustment made by humans was calculated to reveal just enough, provoke a reaction, and test weaknesses. The coalition, confident in their superiority, failed to recognize the pattern until it was too late. Every countermeasure the humans deployed forced the enemy to respond defensively, wasting resources and exposing vulnerabilities. On distant colonies, humans prepared for the next level of engagement. On Mars, orbital outposts coordinated defensive drones that could intercept enemy scouts without being detected. On Titan, resource stations adjusted energy outputs to maintain shields while diverting power to other defensive nodes. Mining stations in the asteroid belt moved strategically, relocating supplies and reinforcing vulnerable points. Every settlement, every station, every small group of humans acted as part of a larger plan that spanned multiple worlds. Even civilians played a part. Volunteers helped maintain supply lines, organized local logistics, and supported community safety. Children practiced drills under careful guidance, learning responsibility, teamwork, and resilience. Families communicated plans, kept each other safe, and ensured that everyone had the support they needed. This collective effort made the human population not just resilient, but nearly impenetrable in their coordination. The coalition, observing these movements, began to panic. Their leaders had underestimated humans from the start. Every calculation they had made assumed fear, chaos, and hesitation. Instead, they saw an opponent that acted with precision, confidence, and foresight. Humans had not only survived the first strike, they were turning defense into a counterforce. In one strategic center, officers reviewed projections of enemy positions. Using data from satellites, drones, and long-range sensors, they could predict the next likely attack vectors of the coalition. They analyzed these projections, then developed responses that would preemptively neutralize threats. Every calculation was verified, every decision reviewed, and every unit coordinated. The human offensive began with subtle strikes designed to disrupt and test. Small drone fleets moved silently, intercepting enemy communications and testing fleet movements. Energy pulses disabled minor systems, forcing the coalition to expend resources on repairs. These operations were precise, targeted, and calculated to teach the enemy that Earth was not a planet to underestimate. As humans advanced, the coalition tried to respond aggressively. Fleets moved to counter human maneuvers, but their efforts were slow, uncoordinated, and often misdirected. Every strike humans had prepared for now became an opportunity to exploit. Automated drones and spacecraft executed maneuvers that the enemy could not predict, striking critical points and withdrawing before retaliation could occur. Even on Earth's surface, engineers worked tirelessly. Systems that had been dormant or secret activated at strategic moments, strengthening defenses and supporting offensive actions. Communication networks ensured coordination across continents and colonies. Supplies were moved efficiently. Hospitals, shelters, and cities operated seamlessly. The planet itself functioned as a single, unified entity, every part contributing to the larger goal. The coalition's mistakes became more apparent with each movement. They had assumed humans would be reactive, but humans were proactive. Every deployment, every maneuver, every strategy was designed to anticipate enemy reactions. The aliens' initial confidence faltered, replaced with confusion, frustration, and fear. Human leaders maintained calm, authoritative control throughout the operations. They did not act rashly. They did not expose weaknesses. They guided every step with careful planning and strategic insight. Their calm inspired confidence not just in the military, but in civilians across the planet and colonies. Humanity's collective focus was unshakable. Even as small victories accumulated, humans continued to prepare for the next stage. Scientists analyzed patterns, engineers reinforced defenses, and tactical units refined strategies. Fleets moved as coordinated groups, responding to the coalition's actions while maintaining the initiative. Every operation, every adjustment, and every maneuver strengthened humanity's position in the galaxy. Civilians continued to contribute indirectly. Local organizations monitored essential services, provided assistance to those in need, and maintained social order. Children practiced emergency drills and learned teamwork, while families reinforced safety and community plans. Every person played a role in the planet's resilience, making Earth an almost unstoppable force. The coalition, watching all this unfold, began to grasp the magnitude of their error. They had underestimated humans completely. Every assumption about fear, chaos, or hesitation had been wrong. Humans had not just survived, they had seized the initiative. They were turning the first strike into a strategic advantage, using intelligence, preparation, and coordination to shape the battlefield. Across colonies, humans refined every aspect of their response. Satellites monitored fleet movements. Drones observed enemy communications. Ships executed maneuvers designed to test weaknesses and exploit opportunities. Engineers maintained and enhanced technology, ensuring that systems remained operational and effective. Civilians contributed indirectly, keeping society functioning smoothly. Every layer of humanity's response reinforced the others, creating a network of resilience that was impossible to ignore. By the end of the day, the coalition realized a harsh truth. Their declaration of war had been a mistake. Humans were calm, coordinated, and prepared. Their technology was advanced. Their strategies were calculated. Their society functioned as a unified organism. And they were not only defending, they were taking control of the situation. The galaxy was learning a lesson it had not expected. Humanity's response was not fear, chaos, or hesitation. It was preparation, precision, and intelligence. The first strike had been repelled, and now Earth was turning defense into the first wave of a counterforce that would leave the coalition rethinking their assumptions. And through it all, humans remained calm. They did not boast. They did not act arrogantly. They moved with quiet confidence, focusing on every detail, anticipating every move, and ensuring that nothing was left to chance. The coalition had thought they would surprise Earth, but the truth was the opposite. Earth had long anticipated this war, and now every secret, every plan, every hidden system was coming into play. The galaxy had underestimated humans, and the consequences were becoming clear. Every victory, every successful maneuver, and every coordinated action reinforced a single reality. Humanity was not a species to be underestimated, and their calm, calculated response was only the beginning. The galaxy had watched in disbelief as humanity survived, defended, and turned the coalition's attacks into opportunities. By now, the coalition knew a painful truth. Earth was not just prepared, it was unstoppable. The calm and coordinated response had become the defining trait of a species that no one had taken seriously until it was too late. Across the command centers on Earth, leaders and officers reviewed the latest intelligence. They analyzed the coalition's positions, identified weaknesses, and mapped out strategic moves. Every action was deliberate, calculated, and precise. The humans were no longer simply responding, they were guiding the flow of the conflict, shaping the battlefield in ways the coalition had never imagined. In space, fleets moved silently but purposefully. Ships that had once been hidden or underestimated now engaged in maneuvers that demonstrated both strength and discipline. Cloaked units slipped past enemy sensors. Drones intercepted critical communications, and advanced weaponry targeted only what needed to be neutralized. There was no panic, no haste, just coordinated, intelligent action. On Earth, the civilians continued their crucial role. They maintained cities, monitored supply chains, and ensured essential services operated without interruption. Hospitals remained fully functional, transportation systems continued, and local governments coordinated seamlessly with higher authorities. Everyone understood that their calm and cooperation was as important as the fleet movements in space. Humanity's strength came not only from its technology, but also from the resilience and unity of its people. Communication channels were alive with activity. Officers coordinated fleets, engineers relayed system updates, and analysts reported on enemy movements. Every detail was shared, every command confirmed, and every maneuver synchronized. There was a rhythm to the operations, a sense of harmony that came from decades of preparation. Humans had trained for this moment, and now every individual, every team, and every system played its part perfectly. Even in the colonies, people contributed to the effort. On Mars, energy grids adjusted to supply power to key defense networks. On Titan, engineers reinforced orbital shields. In remote mining stations across the asteroid belt, teams monitored drones and satellites, relaying real-time information to command centers. Every outpost acted like a node in a giant network, ensuring that no part of human civilization was vulnerable. The coalition, meanwhile, faced growing chaos among its own ranks. Their assumptions about fear, disorder, and hesitation had been completely overturned. Every strike they planned was countered. Every strategy they devised was anticipated. Every calculation was undermined by a species that acted with intelligence, focus, and coordination far beyond what they had expected. For the first time, some of the alien leaders began to feel fear, not the fear of defeat in a single battle, but the fear of a species that could not be predicted, that could not be underestimated. Humans were not just defending their planet, they were shaping the outcome of the war on their own terms. Back on Earth, human leaders maintained calm authority. They addressed the public, not with fear or alarm, but with steady reassurance. People listened because they trusted the leadership. They understood that the plan was in motion and that every individual's cooperation mattered. Families, communities, and even children participated in small but meaningful ways, following drills, maintaining order, and ensuring that society remained functional. Humanity's countermeasures extended beyond technology and military strength. Intelligence operations revealed the coalition's internal conflicts, weaknesses, and miscommunications. Analysts used these insights to manipulate outcomes, redirecting fleets and neutralizing threats without direct confrontation whenever possible. This strategy minimized loss while maximizing impact, demonstrating both restraint and intelligence. In orbital stations, engineers optimized shield systems and weapon arrays, ensuring maximum efficiency. Pilots coordinated in real time, sharing data, predictions, and strategies. Drones monitored enemy positions and engaged in precise interventions. Every movement, whether on the ground or in space, was part of a larger, unified plan. Humans were no longer reacting. They were orchestrating the conflict with unmatched precision. Even as battles unfolded in space, Earth itself remained calm and functional. Power grids, water supplies, communication systems, and transportation networks all continued to operate seamlessly. Cities functioned efficiently, with citizens cooperating and supporting one another. The planet itself seemed alive, coordinated, and prepared a reflection of the people it supported. As days passed, the Coalition began to realize that war with humanity was unlike any they had encountered before. They had assumed superiority, strength, and predictability. Humans had none of the expected weaknesses. Instead, they were adaptive, intelligent, and unified. Every attack revealed more of Earth's preparation and strategy. Every maneuver confirmed that humans were thinking several steps ahead. In command centers across the galaxy, alien leaders debated, argued, and recalculated. Confidence gave way to doubt. Doubt turned into hesitation. The Coalition, which had once acted with certainty, now acted with caution, second-guessing every move. Humans had not just survived, they had forced the enemy to change their entire approach. On Earth, however, life went on as normal in many ways. People worked, studied, and cared for their families, while simultaneously contributing to the larger effort. The distinction between civilian and military blurred, not because of necessity, but because humanity had built a culture of cooperation, resilience, and responsibility. Every citizen played a part in the defense of their planet, whether directly or indirectly. The humans' calm continued to unsettle the Coalition. Their ability to act decisively without panic, to coordinate across planets, and to maintain social order while fighting a war was beyond what any alien species had experienced. Every success reinforced humanity's reputation as unpredictable, resourceful, and unstoppable. As the weeks passed, humans took control of the battlefield. Counter-offensive operations were executed with precision. Weak points in the Coalition's formations were exploited. Supply lines were disrupted. Communications intercepted. Strategic maneuvers anticipated before they could happen. The galaxy began to see a pattern. Humans did not just survive, they dominated by planning, preparation, and coordination. In the colonies, the same discipline was evident. Engineers maintained energy systems, ensuring that power remained stable across distant worlds. Communication arrays relayed data to command centers in real time. Drones and automated defenses responded to threats with intelligence and speed. Even small settlements acted as critical parts of a network, contributing to the overall strategy without hesitation. The Coalition's leaders could only watch as their expectations were dismantled. Humans had not panicked. Humans had not failed. Humans had anticipated, adapted, and executed strategies with an efficiency that the aliens could not match. Their calm, their focus, their unity all combined to create a force that no one in the galaxy could underestimate. On Earth, the public remained confident. They trusted their leaders, their military, and their systems. They continued to contribute in everyday ways, maintaining infrastructure, supporting communities, and ensuring that society remained functional. Every person understood their role, every action mattered, and every contribution strengthened the planet's resilience. As humans consolidated their position, they also reached out with messages of caution and diplomacy. They demonstrated that while they were prepared for conflict, they sought resolution where possible. The galaxy began to understand that Earth's strength was not born of aggression alone, but of intelligence, preparation, and unity. Humans were powerful, but they were also disciplined and rational. By the time the Coalition finally paused to assess the situation, one fact was undeniable. Earth had won the first phase of the war, not by sheer force, but by preparation, coordination, and intelligence. Every system, every community, every individual had played a part. The humans' calm and deliberate response had reshaped the conflict, forced the enemy to rethink strategy, and demonstrated the incredible potential of an organized, united species The final realization for the galaxy was simple but profound. Humanity was not to be underestimated. Their calm in the face of war was not weakness. It was strength. Their coordination, intelligence, and preparation were unmatched. The coalition had learned the hard way that a species that acts with unity, foresight, and purpose cannot be defeated by surprise attacks, intimidation, or overconfidence. And as Earth and its colonies continued to function, defend, and prepare for the future, the galaxy finally understood the truth. Humans had not only expected the war, they had shaped the conditions for survival, adaptation, and victory. Every glance, every action, every decision had been part of a plan years in the making. The coalition, humbled and cautious, had no choice but to recognize humanity's strength. Peace negotiations, when they eventually came, would be approached with respect, fear, and understanding. The lesson was clear. Never underestimate humans. They were calm, they were prepared, and they were unstoppable. In the end, Earth had not only survived, it had demonstrated the resilience, intelligence, and unity of a species capable of turning war into a testament of its enduring strength. And as